here to present the case study of an analysis of rezoning process. Our team is me, Juliana, Anthony, Brian, and us. This is all the topics we'll go through this presentation today. So our project is located in town of Davie. This is the zoning map. That green circle is where our project is located. It is an NSU storage building facility with a retention lake. The parcel size is 6.75 acres. It's composed of 2 lots. And the existing use and existing zone is R1, and we are going to propose the rezoning for CF, that is community facility. Here you guys can see the site plan. The site is located on South S 39th Street with 73rd Avenue. Here is where they're going to put the storage facility and the retention lake. And many cities use to incorporate the smart growth principles on their developments. And these principles, they provide more transportation options for the city. They promote jobs and services to be related to residential uses. It promotes open space design, access to natural areas, and also town of Davie has some rezoning criteria and some conditions that they considering while analyzing our rezoning process. Some of those criteria are that if the project will affect the traffic density, if it will impact the property value, if it will comply with the comprehensive plan of the city.
So the proposed requests for the NSU site are to switch it from the current R1 zoning, the residential zoning that exists, to a community facility. This is going to be consistent with the use of the area because surrounding the site to the north, to the south, and to the west are all residential neighborhoods, and to the east is also a CF, a community facility area. For the process, Nova Southeastern University hired Craven and Thompson and Associates to help put together a land use map, a zoning map, and a site plan for the new proposed site, and to help also with the rezoning and delegation requests, and to do the scope of work. So for the land use map, as you can see on the key, you can see our property proposed, and you can also see how it fits in with the rest of the community, as well as the relation to the regional activity centers or the community facility areas. You can also see the different types of the residential densities that are in that area. Again, to see the zoning maps and the specific zonings, again, CF, and then there's a subject property right next to it. And then for the site plan, you can also see how we are proposing to change the overall pattern to reduce the traffic. So instead of having this existing driveway, we are going to be doing a new driveway so that it does not affect the current traffic patterns. We also are going to be doing the retention lake towards the top, and we're going to do a lot more landscaping to help to make sure that it is more aesthetically pleasing to the community.
Alright, so involved with these hearings is obviously public participation. As far as giving notice to the public, we sent out basically notices to any property owner that's affected by the change in the project that we're proposing. We also let them know there's scheduled 2 events for the citizens' participation. This is monitored by sign-in sheets as well as minutes of the meetings, which break down what happened during the meetings. These are all the parties present. It consists of the city members as well as the NSU attorney representing us and members of the public as well. Alright, so some of the concerns from the community was that increased traffic on Southwest 39th Street due to construction. as well as the eyesore of an industrial building such as a storage facility, basically viewed from the road. In response to that, rebuttal from our NSU attorneys was that we were going to go ahead and eliminate the entrance from 39th Street and create an entrance on the side of the property, as well as limit deliveries of construction materials to 3 times per month between Monday to Friday, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. As well as increased landscaping on the side of the property to not have such an eyesore of the industrial building. As a result, the NSU City Council voted 3-1, with 1 board member being absent to proceed with the project to approval.
So, as you guys, my group just presented, that the site was previously zoned for R1. We got the usage changed to a community facility, and we actually agree with all of the conclusions that was made. We agree with it because what NOVA actually did was they addressed the concerns of the public. It showed that they have the flexibility to not just go with one stationary plan, but the concerns that the public voiced was actually addressed in the new rezoning that we put forth. And also, the intended use of it being a community facility does not affect the overall property area. It's not an eyesore that doesn't really stick out. It actually blends together. During our analysis, we defined certain aspects of smart growth that this site actually entailed. And there's a total of 6 smart growth philosophies, but this project only really addressed 2 that we found. And those 2, I don't know if you guys remember in the previous slide that we showed, the whole area was full of a lot of trees. So that cutting down those trees to put up that storage facility, we figured is going to obviously cause a problem. So what NOVA did, NSU did, is that they created a retention lake, which we believe is part of the smart growth principles in the sense that it is something natural, even though the members of the community can't really use that lake to go fishing or really to enjoy the lake. When they remove those green trees, now you're going to have more runoff water. So having a retention lake actually is beneficial, and it's one of the principles of smart growth in terms of the natural aspect. The other thing that we did, which was a concern of the mayor, is that we planted a lot of landscaping stuff around the site to make it not just look more appealing, but also blend into the current environment around it. And besides those 2 things, that was how smart growth was really actually expressed in this project. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you go back to your site plan?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Back to the site.
Yeah.
There you go. So you can see that this is the main street right here that this site is adjacent to, and this is the community facility area that is existing, and this is the proposed rezoned area.
That's 39th. That's where the previous entrance was, and that's where the new one was. They covered this up and they put landscaping right there.
And if you scroll through the several slides forward, you'll also see the images from the renderings.
What are some other community
Other
facility zoned use, like what else is a community facility? Like counts as the same category that NSU was able to achieve here?
A community facility is any type of facility that's utilized by the community.
Thank you.
No, I really.
Actually, I had to look it up myself. I was like, is it just what it says? But it is. It's just something that's utilized by the park. Could be a community.
It could be a park, or it could be public schools. I've also seen, because if you look at if you go all the way towards the front on the map, you'll see a little bit further.
One more.
Sports field, right?
Yep.
It actually says
there we
community
go.
facility.
See Bill Gessner Sports Complex, the Davie Elementary School, those are all within that community facility zoning.
Good question.
Yeah, no, good answer, Ben.
Okay, can you go to the site plan again?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about, I have a question about were there what caused them to change the entrance location?
So they didn't want to have the huge trucks staying on this main road causing traffic jams. So what they did was, instead of having the trucks come in through this main street, they're allowed to come in through the side street that they created, which connects towards the NSU kind of street thoroughway.
Okay,
So it allows
because
for.
that's not really obvious on the site plan. Can you go back and look at an aerial and let's see, was there an aerial?
So if you go towards the very, very front, here you go. You see this Nova Road right here?
Yeah.
So the new street connects like this.
Okay, so alright, so now I understand. So they moved the entrance
Over to the side, so then it makes it so that it's more flexible.
and also connected it up to the north.
Because there was a member of the community, an older gentleman says that he's been here 60 years, and he did not want his property values to go down by them building this ugly facility, and the traffic on the road, they say, is already bad enough, and now they're gonna have trucks going in and out. So that was
the main concern.
Yeah.
And then, so as you can see, as Oz also pointed out earlier, this is the area with all the tree plantings that they put the retention lake. It was originally zoned before the rezoning to be allowed for
A retention lake.
a retention lake, however, it wasn't done yet.
Okay, and then the site plan one more time, because this was something interesting. See, the other reason I suspect that they moved the entrance was that moving the driveway to coincide with the street, the existing street to the south, improves traffic. You've got turning vehicles, you've got turning motions only in one place as opposed to there and mid-block. So it has less impact on traffic too. And that's something I think you'll encounter as a pressure from traffic reviewers at a city to make your driveways match with the existing street network instead of breaking up the blocks like that. So. All right, anybody else? Questions? Thank you.
You guys usually do it too. You wouldn't want them.
That's what I want to floss it. Yeah. It's that what was the biggest hole in the world?
Something very like to me.
Good afternoon, everyone. So our team, Aaron Ladd, Juanita Bernal, and myself, Alec Munoz, we took on looking into the American Dream Miami Mall, Mega Mall. This is quite a large project, and we went through a successful amendment and we'll switch back. I'm not controlling that. We'll go over the property location, the existing conditions, the amendment process, what was the uses that they had established. So who the applicants are, the owner, the law firm that took over, agencies from the Miami-Dade and some of the Broward agencies that they had to deal with, the project breakdown and the increase in project capacity. They're requesting zoning change, comprehensive plan amendment, which is, it was very interesting to see a project of this size and scale, and the conditional approvals that they went through to get the project to go. And Aaron, you kick it off with the existing conditions.
So our site is located east of Homestead. It's 175 gross acres of land, undeveloped land, and the property was purchased from the Miami-Dade School District.
And one of the reasons why they were seeking a comprehensive plan amendment was because there's an existing declaration of restrictions, which previously expanded the urban development boundary. It also had rezoned the property from open land to industrial and office. And this declaration had it prohibited residential uses, and it also put a cap on the maximum amount of trips the property was allowed to generate. So with this amendment, they were able to increase the trips because this is such a massive project. We're going to get into more about what the developments of regional impact were and why those are no longer in place and why it had to go through this process to get this massive, massive project approved.
So we did a lot of digging into this. Originally, International Atlantic was the one that put the application in 2013. The lawyer was Arnstein and Ler, LLP. And originally it was actually about 94 acres. It was a lot larger. They going back and forth. They put an extension for time. They needed more time to really have the client do the due diligence, and ended up going around 174 acres was what they ended up agreeing on in August 2016. A reduction there, and some of the agencies involved were the CDMP originally, Miami-Dade County, even Broward County was involved. DOT, this project is southwest. There's a corridor that needs to get out there for those trips to be able to get there and not go into the Palmetto or overflow into Palmetto. There is FDOT became involved. There is a proposed railway that needs to get out there, bringing transit-oriented development type of opportunities for local developers, which became attractive to the other developers in town and kind of push for this to go forward.
And then another thing on top of that too, this proposed project is only 2 miles south of the Broward County line. So as they started going through all the approval processes, more and more municipalities were like, this is going to be generating a lot of trips, it's going to be adding a lot of more capacity to all of our lane systems. So the city of Hialeah, like every city that's really in the western area within a 5 to 10 mile radius needed to get on board, and the South Florida Regional Planning Council also recommended several other agencies get involved as well. So like the longer it went on, the more agencies wind up getting on board and offering their input, which also delayed the project quite a bit as well.
So the project is comprised of retail, entertainment complex, common areas, and hotel rooms. It's got 6 million square feet of retail, which is just massive. It will have about 2,000 hotel rooms. So a few of us were at the ULI Summit in Orlando. That Gaylord Palms was about 2,000 rooms. So you can kind of see the scale of the amount of hotel rooms being added into this project. Also, the Boca Raton Resort is about 1,000 rooms, to put a little bit of perspective. So it will be double the Boca Raton Resort. The cost is going to be around $3.2 billion, and they are set to finish in 2023.
So the Developments of Regional Impact Program was a statute that was enacted between 1970 and 2011 to try to mitigate the risks associated with projects this size to the neighboring municipalities. And they essentially got rid of that program in 2011, and these types of projects had to go through the comprehensive plan amendment at a local agency instead. So when they did that, the applicant and the county got together when this was all just kind of still a concept, and they all agreed to still take on a lot of the questions that the Developments of Regional Impact Program would have used on their application, just because when these things happen, like a lot of the regulatory agencies are still kind of adjusting to the new kind of thing, so they incorporated that as a tool essentially to kind of speed it up along. They use the exact same applications, the exact same regulations. There's like 20 of the questions precisely that they kept, which when it's a question on an application, it's usually like a report, a study, something along those lines. It's a lot more in-depth than just a checkbox.
So the South Florida Regional Planning Council provided these metrics where they see this project creating about 24,000 jobs during construction and about 14,000 post-construction. It will attract about 30 million visitors annually. So to give you an example, for example, Magic Kingdom and Disney is the most visited park, and they bring in about 19 million visitors a year. So this is, it just shows the massiveness of the project. And it is expected to generate about $1.5 billion in annual sales revenue.
All right, so for the comprehensive plan amendment, what they were seeking, of course, they have the declaration of restrictions on it previously imposed that gave the industrial office. So they went for a business and office for the future land use element. They also wanted to remove the 0.45 FAR floor area ratio requirement for the proposed portion of the site. They released the existing declaration of restrictions, which was going to put a cap on the trips generated, the prohibition to the residential use, and amend the transportation element figures, which were essentially the trips generated by the project. And the rezoning for the current, so there's the future land use and then the current zoning, they had to amend that as well, and they changed it from industrial district conditional and agriculture, which was the conditional use was what was imposed on them during the declaration, to the retail entertainment district and area development for a current use. Great. So some of the conditions of the development agreement were mostly transportation oriented, just because of the mass amount of cars this is going to generate. They requested that the applicant provide $5.9 million for 11 new buses to the Miami-Dade County Transit and the Department of Transportation and Public Works. They had to construct a new Metrobus terminal and transportation rail system. They also had to put in 3 additional bus bays just for Broward County Transit. So they were incorporating everybody in there. And then on top of that, they had to work with FDOT. They had to provide extra mass transit lanes on the Homestead Extension. And I'll show you in a couple of slides what some of those infrastructure improvements took on. And then there were some more things. They had to take on a preference for low-income workforce people, veterans, disabled veterans, and then they also could do workforce housing to get additional density bonuses, which I'm not sure if they actually did, but that was a condition that was offered. So here's an FDOT map. They have the average annual daily traffic, which is the existing, and then the one in the green is the proposed trips that it's going to create on a daily basis. So that is, and then there's also the Graham project, which is one of the ones I was working on, and they submitted them together just because they're such big projects, and it was just easier for all the agencies to review everything at once during that review session, because they go in certain time increments.
Yeah, and I'll tap into my limited undergrad civil engineering knowledge of DOT, but once you're adding this amount of trips per day and you're creating this volume of vehicles, then you're putting a high tax into your infrastructure, into roads, that the local government's got to be on board, because you will be taxing the roads, and you will be putting, you'll be stretching out their resources. So that was part of the entire sales process. The revenue gathered and the negotiations, have to somewhat account for that. That's stress being put in the right place.
And then here's some of the proposed improvements that they were working with FDOT on. A lot of it is just extensions, new freeway ramps, the mass transit lanes, bike bus lanes. So on the arterial roads, they had to add extra right away to put in the areas for the pedestrians and the bikers. Not that I don't see why they would ever bike or walk in that area, but it's usually still a requirement.
I think signalization, traffic studies, signaling, actual lighting, additional roadway.
Yeah.
All of this is a major undertaking.
That was one of the things they provided for our county too, was for the extra like the traffic signalization.
So we discussed our site, the people involved, what the project will be comprised of, what was requested and what was approved.
Any questions?
The American dream.
It's projected to break ground in 2023, so right now they're kind of working on building permits. It's stalled a little bit because they just got approval in 2018 for everything. And then they'll be able to start doing their site plans and building permits and all that, which is a whole different review nightmare, so.
So it's for you, about the Graham project, what is the, what's up with that, I guess?
That is a even bigger development that's gonna be mostly industrial, office, residential, and that one's not expected to be completed until 2040, to show you how big that project is. So that's why they were submitted together. So, I mean, I just worked on that in my internship, looking at all the traffic data and putting it together in exhibits and tables and doing all that analysis. It was a lot of fun.
Are those two projects sharing the cost to redo the roads and the infrastructure?
That's, I'm not 100% sure on that, but that would make sense that both applicants would share the cost for the impact fees, and because they're significant, they're in probably the 10 millions, 50, it's gonna be a big one.
Can you go back to the slide that showed the new roads going in?
Your roads and trips.
Okay, all of those dots are all road, the red ones, they're all new roads that are being put in place, or?
Those are just highlighting areas of concern,
Ah,
the red
okay.
circles.
Because I was
So
trying to
there's
bring
gonna
it
be like the traffic signal, like the extra signalization that they're gonna be adding.
And the arrows is where outflow traffic is going? Yeah, those. That's an outflow into
I
the
believe
different
that's,
communities?
I can't read it, but it's usually showing, it says something more about like the peak hour period trips and like what times they
Okay,
go
where
that way.
they're gonna be going to
Yeah.
during peak.
And like, and peak hour period is usually rush hour.
Yeah.
So FDOT releases, on their GIS system, they have these, it looks kind of like an Excel spreadsheet, but it's just these numbers and numbers and numbers based on the hour. And that's essentially how FDOT roads are built, based on.
Traffic counts, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Where is the mall located again, or where is it gonna be located? Address-wise.
It's way west, so it's just south of the Broward, it's 2 miles south of the Broward County line, in between the Homestead Extension and, yeah.
75.
So that's one of the original things, the property originally was, during the declaration, was to amend the urban development boundary and push it back a little bit, because they were gonna put some kind of industrial park in there, that wanted to not happen.
So the declaration was done
It was done in 2006.
to induce Miami-Dade to extend the urban development boundary to include this. Okay, so is this actually located in unincorporated Miami-Dade County?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the
That's
issue.
what I thought.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is the land west of that, west, is that a develop, can that be developed on?
No.
That's the urban development boundary, so that's where the Everglades and the wetlands exist, so that's one of the things, yeah.
That's 20,000
You
annex.
said something like the Miami-Dade teachers was the seller of the land?
It was a Miami-Dade County School Board, and they did an agreement where they essentially, I'm not 100% sure on this either, I'm pretty sure it was like a land lease, like a 100-year land lease or something from Miami-Dade County School District. But they did own a portion of the site, and they had to get that approval and, agree to do XYZ elements associated.
Who had to release the declaration? Was that in favor of
Miami-Dade.
Miami-Dade?
Yeah.
What was the original location of this mall?
It's just a
It's
proposed
just a
project.
process.
But there wasn't gonna be, it's gonna be here, and they just ended up moving it
So
there.
it's the 555 group, so they're the ones who did the Mall of America.
Yeah.
And so they saw this area and they saw everything that was coming to the region, and they decided that this is where they wanted the mall, and
But no, I originally understood that the mall was gonna be like in like Bricklayer or something.
No.
that's
No,
part of the
right?
city
No, no.
center, yeah. They wouldn't, yeah.
They were gonna destroy it.
Put it there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I was
Because you
saying.
couldn't afford that.
That's the mall with indoor ski.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I had
Can you
some
go back to
renderings up. Yeah, it's like the second or third
It'll
slide.
have water slides,
Yeah.
ski, flow.
These are the indoor renderings,
Yep.
Straight down.
It's gonna be like,
I've been to Mall of America and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Inside, like Snoopy, there's a whole like Snoopy, entertainment park inside, it's kind of crazy.
yeah, it's gonna be,
So this, they used, you said that they sort of utilized some of the structure of the old DRI program to do this. Are these, and it's, the project's not gonna all be done at once type of thing. Is there a phasing plan or are there controls associated with the road improvements that they can't build more than 1 million square feet until they do these? Are those defined?
yeah, there was some stuff in that, in the new development agreement, I saw that they couldn't do a certain amount of million square feet of XYZ until they did.
So there were thresholds?
Yes,
There were
exactly.
development thresholds, and they had to have had the traffic improvements done to coincide?
Yes, yes. So that was in the development agreement that just recently signed.
Okay. But there's no residential, retail, entertainment,
Hotel,
hotel?
no resident.
No, there's,
No residential.
there might be some residential, but if you go back to the, okay, maybe not. So
No.
hotel, sometimes they'll do hotel and then they'll change it to like
Residences.
residential, like.
Yeah, a lot of plans allow interchange
Yeah.
between residential and hotel on some ratio,
I didn't see that in the
but it's
development
really
agreement.
quite a
It
different
was-
impact, so that
Yeah.
sort of surprised me.
Yeah.
That requires a particular type of zoning to do that? To have residential?
Well,
Yeah,
this,
flexibility.
so tell us about it, so the ultimate, go over again with us what the final, what the zoning, what the land use and zoning was after the approval.
It was a planned development, so if you go to the next slide, I believe.
Can you
So-
take one more slide?
Sorry. Maybe the next.
Next one?
Yes. So it took off the conditional use that the previous subdivision had, and now it's going to be a planned area development for retail entertainment. And I did not read that section of the code, but I'm assuming usually planned development.
Industrial to business
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
So it had an industrial office and land use, and then it went to a business and office land use. Okay, and business probably has a pretty broad scope of permitted uses.
Yeah.
Um,
So that means that this was under it, so.
So what?
So that means that with the business and office, then they got that with the current zoning underneath that umbrella.
Retail, entertainment,
Yeah.
district. So planned area development, which was make it up to match what we want to build anyway, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Make the regulations match the development instead of the other way around. Yeah.
Planned development's always, the minute you put that on any agenda, you're getting
Yeah.
a ton of neighbors. Angry neighbors, so. There's like thousands of pages of emails from angry neighbors on the staff report, so.
I don't think residential's gonna go there. I agree.
Well, unless they do the workforce housing, then they can get extra density, so.
Did you notice any themes to the extent you read the complaints? What were the sources of the complaints?
The FDOT, a lot of the FDOT reports, and actually the traffic engineer, their consultant, did, like, the numbers were kind of off in certain areas, so he would say it was average daily peak hours for this use would be XYZ, and then it would say something lower in a different one, so a lot of the neighbors were arguing that the reports were flawed, and that the commissioners were out of their minds and BS crazy to, like, approve a project of this scale when, like, the traffic congestion is already so bad, you're gonna be adding twice that amount to, that was the primary.
Mostly traffic.
And that the jobs that they're gonna be creating aren't high-level jobs, and they're just kind of entry-level, they're gonna be stealing from a lot of the other local businesses that need these people, need these workers, and now they're not gonna have any employees to run their show anymore, so.
Everything back
The
there.
jobs cap off at like 25,000 a year, so
It's a lot of starters and stuff like that.
Who had no affordable housing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the elected officials, could you see sort of a transition with the elected officials opposing it? Like, it's hard to tell because they have to do all this at public meetings, they can't, but did the the elected officials talk about what persuaded them to approve?
Jobs, it's gonna be
Mostly-
creating jobs.
Mostly jobs?
And it's gonna be bringing in infrastructure improvements, but it's like necessary infrastructure improvements
Yeah.
that are required to help.
And I think it also gets us on, or that area on the map. It's not just gonna be a
Revitalizing
local
the
impact, but
area.
a global impact, you know.
Getting the east-west corridors to get some transit that is needed. There's a lot of verticals, north-south stuff, not a lot of east-west connectivity, which they seem attractive, but I think it's a dream.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.
I think I know the PowerPoint.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
You know.
Come on, man.
When's it all? It's not fair. Convenience and content too.
It's like you do, you guys do it in Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, but I do that at home by myself.
That's so not fair.
His last is on calculus.
You remember all the bad things and none of the good.
That was good.
Probably did it the day before, that's,
The other download
he probably did it the day before. It's like, oh yeah, I got this.
But
I
when
dreamed
he- earlier
it,
today, when
so-
he was saying,
Yeah, and I had the right nationwide office vacancy. I guess a lot, so I'll get one.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody
Don't
got
know
the-
shit goes on. Some, oh.
1.8 million. 85 though, that's one.
All right, this time.
What happened?
Is that in Florida?
it's in Florida.
Ocala?
Probably that doesn't look good.
I don't know, that's horse.
Okay, our case study, our group, well, first, let me introduce myself, Nathan, Alex, and Cynthia. Our case study was Orange Park Medical Center in Jacksonville, Florida. Clay County is the county this is in. And so, next slide. Okay, and on the agenda for us, site description, aerial and site images, rezoning goal, site rezoning, staff analysis, legislative action, and then we'll go over SMART principles, and then the minutes at the end. Okay, before zoning, this piece of property, which set right next to the actual hospital, the Orange County Medical Center, which sits to the west, that side, was a vacant property zone for urban core. And that was the existing FLUM future land use map. And then they wanted to rezone it for commercial because they wanted to expand the hospital. They wanted to make a new building, a larger building. Next slide.
A little bit of about the site is for a property that was undeveloped. It was zoned for PS3, which is designated for hospitals, medical offices, group homes, and other uses. It was also designated zoned for REE residential and RD4, which is multifamily residential. And to the adjacent properties to that site, to the north, to the east, to the west, were designated urban core and separated by a utility right away. And to the south land, it was designated commercial and mixed use.
So here are some aerials of the property. The property is located in southwest Jacksonville. Major concern in Jacksonville is the urban sprawl and just expanding too quickly. And that's where we get to the smart growth principles. Over here you can see there's a lot of different use types and zonings in this corridor. There's a large retail corridor just to the west with a lot of the big box retailers like Lowe's, Ross, And then there's community-related zones such as high schools, junior high, elementary school. Plus, then we have the Orange Park Medical Center right next to this facility. The current property is 15.6 acres, and it's currently used as it's not, but it had an automobile repair store on it years ago, but it's currently undeveloped. So here's the parcel right here, right on Kingsley Avenue. One of the major concerns at the hospital, it was a little bit of the pushback from the commissioners, was the parking at the hospital. Because the hospital's been going up, it's been growing vertical. They're actually expanding one of the medical centers. They're adding 4 floors and almost 50 beds, and it's going to create an additional 100 jobs. So they're concerned, where is all this parking going to go? They did buy this parcel right here next door that they're utilizing for parking, but with the expansion of this facility, they do want to have additional parking facilities on the property. Here's some pictures that we found of the actual site. As you can see, it's currently fenced off. It's just raw land. And here's a sign actually that we found that has the actual application number, the Z19.
So again, Orange Park Center seeks expansion of the medical center next door because, as Alex was saying, it's growing vertically and they have a parking problem. They plan a 3-story, 60-square-foot medical office building. The 2 applications, there are actually 2 applications. There's an application for the zoning, and there's also an application for to adjust the plan, the comprehensive plan, because it wouldn't. I mean, it fits. It fits the thought of it, but it doesn't fit it word by word. So they have to go and adjust the plan. And they sought this company, this Kruk engineering company out of Franklin, Tennessee, to facilitate that for them. It's just some pictures of before and what they hope to get afterwards. So,
You good?
yes, get one more.
So some of the staff findings were, well, the staff found that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan, with the approval of the CPA-2018, and it's compatible with surrounding area. They evaluated the parking right next to the site, and they also they recommended approval of the application, but it was contingent on the comprehensive plan 20-18. And so the action that happened after was the Clay County Board of Commissioners approved the rezoning for the expansion of the medical center, and medical center ended up paying $3.3 million in 2015 for the site property. And Chad Williams was the Clay County zoning chief and development review manager. That well, he mentioned that the next steps include site plan review and approval of the development review committee before they build the permit.
So in April was when the zoning was approved, but they still haven't approved as you said, the site plan. That's where it is right now. It's in that stage.
Smart growth principles for the property. As I mentioned before, urban sprawl is a main concern in Jacksonville. So the comprehensive plan amendment had to include smart growth principles. In Jacksonville in particular, they like to focus on high density development, alternative transportation, and combining land uses. So they want to make sure that the efficiency of the previous land uses around this property match and will flow well. In addition to creating additional jobs. And here's one of the amendments that they actually included that relates to mixed use. It's the proposed amendment will not fail to encourage a functional mix of uses. The proposed use will increase the economic base of the county, encourage a functional mix of uses. So they really want to implement that with the surrounding area and create jobs, because there is urban core all around the area, So there are lots of residential houses and apartments where people could potentially walk and bike to work.
And now we're gonna show you a short video.
Very short.
And these are actually the minutes of the meeting.
We're going to open up the public comment. Anybody who has anything to address the commission on, please come forward. Seeing none, we're going to close public comment.
Sure, I'll be happy to make a motion. I think we all know the importance of the hospital to the community, and I don't think you did anything but good stuff over there. I don't see any reason this would be any different. It certainly will be an improvement from what's there today, and it'll also maybe get that site cleaned up a little eventually. So I'll move the staff report.
Second. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
That was the entire debate.
No, there were.
That actually was
They did have some. They did have a few rebuttals.
Approved.
They talked about there may be an environmental issue there. They talked about there had been either a gas station or something, some kind of like a building where they work on cars or something there. There's also a cell tower on that property that they proposed to have moved. They have the cell phone company move it to a corner away from where they were going to build their things. But that's, yeah, good luck with that. It's not really zoning, so yeah.
Questions? Questions?
Was this, so this was approved?
Yeah, that was the
That was the approval.
that we showed you.
I know. Okay, sorry. All right, okay. That was.
So what was it about urban core land use that wasn't going to work here? Why, when it was already urban core and surrounded by urban core, did they have to change the land use to commercial?
Well, the hospital wanted to change it, but why they didn't develop that, I don't really know. And I was actually curious about that myself because it's surrounded by lots of homes, and as you mentioned, there's a huge kind of retail area there. It would seem like an ideal kind of place if you want to move. It's not that far from the water, but I'm not sure if the area is on the up and coming or on the down and going.
So the staff report on the land use plan amendment didn't explain why the project wasn't compatible with urban core.
You just mentioned it was undeveloped. That was all that really went into it.
The way it's here, it's hard to find anyone saying it looked like it was kind of a place where people might be hanging out in partnership kind of area. It's kind of fenced in, vacant lot area.
Yeah, but what, I guess the question is more, what were the uses that the hospital wanted that required them to amend the land use that they couldn't have gotten under the urban core land use?
They had to zone it commercial for, that's
Why?
what, in Clay County, because that's what the medical offices and retail.
So medical office wasn't permitted in urban core?
No, it's called Urban Core 10. You
Yes,
look that up.
and I
yeah.
believe part of the site was actually zoned for residential, so that's why they needed to rezone to commercial.
So the
So
land
partial.
use, so the urban core land use didn't allow the hospital use?
Correct.
Correct.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and that was included in the comprehensive plan of it. They broke down the UC-10 and the commercial designations and why.
It's owned by the medical center, but it's not. It's office, not hospital per se.
So the use was medical office, and that was, okay. All right. And they changed the land use to commercial, and they changed the zoning to commercial business. All right. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
You guys are good. About this.
From my house. Not even.
It's a one on there.
Take a wild guess which one it is.
Three choices, not one.
This other one.
Assume.
Yep, that's the one.
They making a mall?
Hi guys, I know it's been a long day. My name is Christina, as we all know. James and John, we are here to talk to you about Galleria Mall development in Fort Lauderdale. I think I just gave away half my presentation. So, basic outline, the existing development, and this is very basic. The existing development, the proposed redevelopment, the application, and the outcome. As we know, this is the Galleria Mall in Fort Lauderdale on East Sunrise Boulevard. Sunshiny downtown Fort Lauderdale. We are actually in East Fort Lauderdale. Broward County, the annual growth rate residential is 10.2%. The median household income is $52,000 roughly. And the hotel occupancy rate year round is 72%. And you will see in a little while why that makes sense, but I mentioned that. Basic outline is just east of the beach, as I said. We are, just west of the beach. We are in East Fort Lauderdale. The existing mall. Okay, so I think we all know where. Am I walking? Nobody was paying attention. The existing mall. So something interesting we found out is the existing mall is built around the old Jordan Marsh store. Which is actually, the mall now is owned in conjunction with Dillard's, who purchased this back in, I'm not going to give a date because I don't remember. I want to say it was there you go, 81, I believe they said they purchased it. So they bought it, demolished the mall around it, which was the old Sunrise Center, and then put up what we now know as Galleria. So Galleria now, 1.4 million square feet. We have 5 anchor tenants. Has the stores like Apple, Dillard's, as we already heard, Macy's, Neiman Marcus, Blue Martini, a bunch of restaurants. It is an established location. Their tourist boost of income is roughly 40% a year from sales. You can skip that one. It's been a long day. It's okay. I think we covered most of it.
Yeah, what you're looking at here is just the developer profile. It's Keystone Property Group. They are based out of Pennsylvania, but they're one of those octopus with tentacles in a lot of states, mainly in their case, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and Florida. Their Florida branch is known as Keystone Florida. Surprise, property holdings. And so they actually own the Galleria Mall. We only manage that. Next slide. What you see here is the proposed redevelopment of one of the renderings, what they want it to look like. And if you look at the bottom, which is kind of, you'll see as it goes along, they first began proposing in 2014, as our story goes on. Next slide. Estimated cost that they want to slap down this sucker is $1 billion. Now we're trying to figure out if that included the price that they already own in the mall, but it looks like it's just new construction. It's going to be $1 billion.
They claim it includes land costs, but they own the Galleria. I believe they do not own some of the lots around it.
Yeah,
but it's vague.
Yeah, Dillard is holding strong because Dillard's been like independent since they've been there. They just kind of associate themselves with the Galleria Mall, but they're like by themselves.
So they are requesting the rezoning of 35 acres to what they're calling ID, which is innovative development. This $1 billion includes a facelift of the existing mall, the addition of residential units, commercial units, hotel rooms, common areas, green areas, and community spaces. Slide. Thanks. It is pitched as the first LEED certified community in Florida when it was originally pitched in 2014. I feel like we may be beyond that now, but so as I just said, residential units including hotel rooms, apartments, townhouses, senior living. It is currently zoned as a B1 and RMH 60, which I put for you, boulevard business and residential high-rise multifamily high density. Slide. Thanks. As per quoted by them, the developer, sorry, the zoning district proposed is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. The changes anticipated will not adversely impact the character in or near the area. Slide. And now I'll tell you why that's a lie. So, what they are proposing is 7 mixed-use towers surrounding the existing mall. They're just stacking them up around the mall. 3 of these are more than 20 stories. I think the highest is 38, if I remember correctly, or maybe they dropped it to 35 when the city told them no the first time. They want 1,250 residential units, 163 hotel rooms, over 100,000 square feet of office space, 13,000 of restaurants, and this is not including what's in the gallery now. Oh, wow. And 4,000 financial institutions, which I believe is just 1 bank or 2 banks. They are also putting in a 15-story office building, a bank, and retail spaces. It's quote-unquote a fully walkable community. Slide. So the problem with this, what's that? Right, so the problem with this, let's switch it to ID zoning, is they're doing it on purpose because ID zoning allows for tall buildings. They have what's called flexible units. So they can, like, it goes above and beyond the zoning density for that area. They can just chuck in extra units and it allows them to put residential buildings in areas not designated for them. This was a newly designed zoning, which I believe is now null and void. So the proposed buildings exceeded density, height, width, and setback requirements under the existing zoning. And the new zoning, they're like, oh, let's just do this one. They're like, it doesn't exist, so allow us to do whatever we want in this little space because we own it and we want to do what we want. Like I said, they claim it's consistent with the comprehensive planning and that it doesn't impact anybody else. Slide. This is the current zoning map. As we see this little gap right here is them, B1, and RMH 60. Slide. This covers it. This is, future land use. We're looking at high 60 residential and commercial spaces with that red brick right there. Slide. I don't have anything more to say about that. The proposed site plan, this is what we're looking at. These green blocks around here are the new towers that they want to put up. And then S7 up there in the corner, which is not green, and I don't know why. Oh, I believe it's just parking. What do you guys want to take that? Cedric?
So these are the renderings as of 2016, which show the local high-rise there. And the gallery is sort of in the middle. It cases it on 3 sides, so their plan to do was 24-story towers, goes lower back down, and then 4 smaller towers. And you can see from the other side there, the islands.
That is a facelift of the existing gallery wall with the high.
So it's going to be a sort of a 3/4, a 2/3 wrap.
Slide. Slide. Jim, do you have?
Yeah, so these are some of the potential impacts that people are beginning to worry about: environmental, public resources, social, market rates, and traffic. Pretty much everything that any new development comes along with and has to be addressed through regulatory channels. Next slide. So this right here is just doing that overview of the DRC process. So you can get like a quick visual of like all the steps necessary. It's pretty much everything we've covered in class, and it kind of leads into what, how this process folded out. Next slide. So one of the major concerns off the bat was traffic considerations. Put something like that huge up there. So Keystone commissioned with a traffic study and submitted to the Department of Transportation, Florida. So these are pretty much the 5 main areas of concern they addressed. 25% driveway access, they didn't have anything major, concurrency fees, right away. Evacuation impact, since it was west of the intercoastal, there was no impact on evacuation routes. But as they always like to say, it does not guarantee permit approval, so they pushed that forward to the PZB so they can go ahead, give them their thumbs up. And next slide.
Okay, so they came forth with all these, like, sorry, everybody in the community, all the community association managers and everybody they spoke to came forth with, like, what about traffic, what about the environment, what about all the things that you're gonna screw up by putting up, you know, what was originally 1,600 units, they dropped to 12. So they were like, not a problem, we got it. How we intend to address this, they went with the majors, vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, transit, what they call quote unquote traffic calming. I don't know if that's an actual term.
Traffic calming? Sure.
Is it? Yeah. Ridiculous. And other. So they are spending a total of $24 million trying to make this happen on just smoothing the edges of the disaster they're creating. Right? In terms of traffic in the neighborhood, they're putting in roundabouts, only one, so it's not good. They're only putting in one. They are putting in new pedestrian crossings at 4 intersections, I believe. They're putting in bike valet services. Coordination kiosks for mobility. They're contributing to Sun Trolley. Apparently the existing Galleria Mall takes in $15,000 a year to Sun Trolley as a donation. And they're going to match that because they're only bringing 1,200 new homes into the space. And they are providing a car sharing service. I don't know if it's like they're creating their own, but this is what they claim. And electric charging facilities at the new mall. Slide. John, you're on.
Okay, so here's the no. So this would be a no. The outcome was that initially the plan was approved by the Zoning and Planning Board in November 2016. So the original application for the plat, because here's the rub, it's essentially a platting issue. According to section 4724.5 of the ULDR, any development that was platted subsequent to June 4th, 1953 is exempt from having a replat. Gallery properties were platted in 1952, so they're non-exempt. So when they submitted the application back in 2014, they knew right away they were going to have to replat. They submitted the plat application in September 2014. They worked diligently. It was done concurrently with the site plan. And in November of 2016, it was submitted to the Zoning and Planning Board, who approved it, conditionally upon satisfying that section 4724.5 of the ULDR. Next slide. So again, the application process was started in 2014. The Broward County planning process required this plat to be completed and submitted no later than March 27th of 2017. On November 26th, that's when they received the initial referral of approval from the Zoning and Planning Commission to the City Commission. And section 24.75 requires all parcels not platted again, like I said, to be replatted. On March 17th, the public hearing was held by the City Commission. And they heard public comment on the application, determined that it failed to meet the requirements of section 4724.5, and it was denied. And pending further review in April of 2017. They pended review of the actual site plan because they couldn't go forward without approval of the plat. So then April 2017 was rescheduled to the April 2017 meeting, and then they deferred again until June because they were still not there in getting the platting requirements completed. And eventually Keystone Property Holdings just withdrew the application entirely in April 2017. So with the pledge that they're going to resubmit.
So the writing was on the wall.
Yes. So they just couldn't get it done. But, so we feel our analysis that the decision obviously was justified, was legally sound. It was based on the fact that they were in non-compliance with the ULDR, section 4724.5. They knew that going in. They had 2.5 years to get this completed. They failed to get it completed. And so the further extensions were denied, so developer failed to satisfy the requirements of that. So the decision on a legal basis was sound. So the approval recommendation, again, was approved by the Planning and Zoning Board. So there were smart growth principles involved, so the actual site plan and the comprehensive plan involved all the smart growth principles were all discussed in it. But again, they failed to satisfy which they knew, section 47, 24, 45. So the future resulted in denial on March 7th, and then subsequently just withdrawn. So right now it's in a pending status. So they promised to resubmit and resubmit under current zoning. Right now.
So they're saying that they're, okay, so the site plan was approved by the Planning and Zoning Board, but would have to be approved by the commission also, because it was innovative development.
Yes, and the city commission could not go forward without first approving the plat.
So the plat, that's an interesting red herring, but the city commission approval, I guess there was, the developer felt there was a signal that they were not going to get city commission approval in the ID.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, okay, even though they got it at planning and zoning.
And then apparently in May of this, just a few weeks back, I think they changed the ID to PUD.
They went back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ID was a replacement for the city's PUD, and that hasn't worked either, so.
Go back, so right now we're just kind of in a hold pattern. So.
No, I believe earlier this year they are now, they either just resubmitted or they're going to resubmit, but they've been told it's under existing zoning.
You have to do it under B1 and RMH.
Yes, that's it. There's no.
Whatever you can build there, you
Yep,
can build.
that's what you mentioned. So that's what they got.
So, and then
So I kind of jumped in there, so other questions from your colleagues?
You said something about, you said that the decision was sound. How do you, what does that mean? Is that?
well, the Uniform Land Development regulations, section 47.24.5 require, it's very specific that any property that was not platted or recorded subsequent to June 4th, 1953 is non-exempt and must be replatted.
Okay.
So they knew that going on when they submitted the application in September 2014. They knew they were going to have to replat and submit this platting application. So they knew the timeframes also were very strict. They knew going in it was about 2.5 years.
Is that a short time to have something replatted?
I think they felt it was short. They felt they were pressured, so because of this deadline on March, the actual deadline was March 26, 2017, so they moved quickly to get this heard in a public hearing on March 7, 2017. So they knew they were under the gun. And then the attorney, Stephen Tilbrook of Gray Robinson, even pointed out that because of the strict Broward County deadlines, because Broward County planning process is very strict under time frames. And he knew that because of those time frames, they would not be able to, the city commission was going to have to review separate aside from the site plan and just address the planning issue first. And so they just were not able to get that. So the public hearing was denied based on that.
They denied the plat approval. That's part of it I was aware.
Yeah. So, and it couldn't go forward. That was like, unless you do this, you're not going to get people bothered.
But the decision you said was sound was the one that they got refused because of they didn't move on. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I do think it's important to remember that this was it's not their second application, but it's their second amendment to their first application. Their first came in at 38 stories, 1,670 something units, and the city said, take it back to the drawing board. That's insane. So they came back and they were like, I think they came down to 32 stories and 1,250 units, not including hotel rooms and senior living in this very small space downtown. They're saying like, oh, we're doing things for the neighborhood, for the community.
Traffic already sucks. I live right by there.
Right.
You're saying the traffic is
horrendous.
It's horrendous. And they're like, oh, we're going to upgrade your sewer systems. We're doing all these things, so
I have so
let us
much
through.
road rage driving through there already.
They put in one traffic circle in Victoria Park, and then upgraded some pedestrian crossings over it. I don't even know how you upgrade a pedestrian crossing other than flashing lights, I guess. So And that was it, that's our approach to, we fix the problems that we're about to cause by bringing 1,250 new units, 200 hotel rooms, senior living, community center, everything into the space. It's essentially kind of like an island. It bounces between a bunch of waterways.
They don't have any room for that, because where they were proposing to put those buildings is like towards a dead end, and it would loop around. And even if they go up, they don't have any place, you have to park. You can't even park over there right now.
Right now, exactly. They included, I want to say it's 5,000 new parking spaces.
It's still not enough. They need it right now. They need it right now without anything
All
else.
about is parking, they have underground parking, it's just.
Underground is intercoastal.
Sorry, under the tower.
Like what they have right now with the under
Like
the
pretty much everything's been
building.
built around and above what's there now.
Right.
So how did they get approval from, how did they get the support of planning and zoning board?
That I have no
I don't know, that's.
I think,
You just think it's too much? So your own judgment is that this was just too much? They were just proposing too much for the site?
I feel like they did what you said that they were gonna do, like come in high, wait for them to shoot you down, and come in with something equally ridiculous, but much more sane. And they were like, yeah, okay, that sounds better. But eventually they still got, kicked to the curb, take it back, rethink it, come back under original zoning.
I think it was a lot of community, backlash too.
Right.
Like when they submitted their application, they submitted hundreds of letters from associations and regular citizens that supported the project in nice form, block letters, they're all, like, if you look at the emails submitted, they're all like pretty much the same letter, just signed by different people, so they're probably just, soliciting, support. And then the real, citizens got wind of it, started calling in and started complaining, and they started rising, so they started scrutinizing a little bit more to the regulations. And I think that's kind of what, derailed it on the back end, politically speaking.
They get this for more time because the city was beating at these hearings, and they wanted no more than 15 stories, and they wanted to, obviously, they brought down to 24 stories. And there was like no agreement there. So one of the commission members said, well, I guess these discussions are ended, so he wanted to just cut it off there. But they wanted to continue, so they got a deferral at the same time. It was just denied. The resolution, the actual resolution was resolution number 17, which denied based on. So it was kind of like a technical issue.
Okay, so one more question. This was proposing a rezoning to innovative design, which is similar to the planned developments that we've been talking about.
Right.
What were the community benefits that the developer was pitching in order to try to get approval for an innovative design, for innovative development district? Was it those improvements, or what was the pitch to say this is going to provide a higher quality development than development under the existing zoning?
I think there was one slide on there that just broke back in the beginning.
One slide out there doesn't help.
You're doing a
I
good
know.
job,
Just keep going.
You want to help a little bit?
I'll do it for you guys.
Right?
Let's begin. All right, let's hallucinate again. Pretty much what they were trying to pitch is that this modern community where everything is integrated, where you can walk to where you need to go. If you want something from the mall, just go downstairs, and kind of like the traffic wasn't going to be that bad because you didn't have any place to go because everything was there.
Everybody's walking. We rolled these new jobs in with the retail, the 4,000 in retail footage. The office tower, I believe there's a second office section in one of the residential units.
Facelift of the mall, I mean, there's nothing to prevent them from doing that now, but that had been an appeal, because the mall is looking pretty tired.
Yes. That additional parking, because people are complaining about parking. And then they expanded that to be like, we're gonna upgrade your sewer systems and all these things that are gonna come as a nice part of this package that
Black Friday would be a disaster there.
Oh,
It is.
But from my experience, there's underutilized surface parking all around the perimeter of that mall. I taught my daughter to drive in one of those parking lots because nobody ever parks there. But the surface parking does seem ripe for some sort of redevelopment to me.
Right.
That has to include structured parking to replace the surface, but, so somewhere in between this would make sense for me, yeah. And yes, I am so old and I've lived here so long that I shopped at that Jordan Marsh before,
Wow.
before Galleria was built.
Before
Yes.
it's stuff again, bird eyes.
Well, I remember bird eyes, but I didn't. She was like 4.
Okay, this is like a.
Oh my gosh.
My mother didn't drive, my father would drive us there and drop us off to shop. I was little, and then we would cross the street to a deli and call my dad to pick us up. So that was part of my childhood.
You're right though, it is insane that it does not underutilized space. It's such a small area. Like, you would think they would have ripped out a long time ago for infrastructure parking and reused that space. But I suppose it is part of that.
They're trying to get the big deal, they're trying to get the American dream on.
Right.
Instead of the
Yeah, no, they're all
incremental.
That, because they waited so long, it's like we're fishing going up north, and doing everything else in north, that we don't really
Connecticut is its own, like.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Finally, they're out of here.
You better say it.
Yeah, question.
Mine is together in me now. My stomach is bothering me now. That's my own. Sorry, thank you.
Ready? All right. So our project, well, I'll introduce myself. Hi, I'm Alana. These are my colleagues, Armanda, Adriana, and Alex. And we did our project on the Riviera School, day school, and it's in Coral Gables. This is 1600 Nervia Street. We'll go more into the details, but so the project is on, they're expanding. It's a 3-story building that will accommodate the growing school population. This site in particular is their pre-K through 5 building, but I said we'll go into that further in a minute. But it's, as I said, it's to accommodate the students, and because the site was built in 1950 to modernize it as well. So you go next slide. And this right here is just a table of contents we'll be discussing, and yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so Riviera Day School was founded in 1950. Originally, it was a California school, and a lot of really wealthy Americans started moving to Miami, and they needed a school. Only one school in the area was Gulliver. Well, Gulliver was a very tiny school at the time, so they needed a smaller school specifically for the residents that didn't want to take their kids to public school. So they opened up Riviera School, and it's an accredited school. It's the location we're talking about now is pre-K through 5th grade, and they have another satellite campus, which is maybe a quarter mile away, which hosts 6th through 12th grade, and the entire school, Riviera Day School, hosts 512 students, but the entire school hosts around between 850 to 910 students. And yeah, so this is the property from the eagle eye view. You can see it's L-shaped. It's separated into 8 different properties, but it's one big property. Above is Ponce Leon, which is the main road in Coral Gables. Basically, all of Coral Gables is surrounded. All of Ponce Leon is surrounded by Coral Gables. Basically, the entire school is in the center of the entire city. So it's also in a residential area. As you can see, there's homes all around the area, and to the east is where it becomes a more industrial. You have malls, you have offices, you have warehouses and such. Next slide. Okay. So within a 55-year, 52-year span, Riviera was approved for three zoning expansions. The first one was 1963, which was to expand the existing structure, which was a small day school in conjunction with a religious structure that was already on the property before the construction of the school. In '97, it was approved for another expansion of the day nursery, which allowed the school to host from 190 students to 320. And again in 2017, the school expanded once again onto additional property, expanding their host from 320 to 524. And the most recent one, which was to expand onto another property. The city did not allow the school to expand onto the current property, which was 6,800. So the school had to buy property maybe a quarter-mile away, which is where the 6 to 12 are hosted, and in total of 910 students. Next slide.
Alright, so our project covered two main requests from the applicant. It was a PAD or planned area development and a conditional use with site plan. So the first thing they had to deal with was going about getting a conditional use request. The current zoning where they're at right now is special use, so for a school you have to get a conditional use. The chart over here is just briefly like the requirements that the conditional use that they have to follow if and when accepted. You can go to the next one.
Can you go back one time? Sorry.
This is just like, I mean, you want me to go through, I can. It's just showing how like, okay. It's just basically showing the difference of like parking requirements, things like that, that the conditional use would require. So yeah, sorry you can't really see that. But basically, what it's saying is there are two main requirements to get accepted, and that would be keeping consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map.
And so this right here is the comprehensive plan goals. It lists 6 of the different criteria and reference numbers. And as you see on the far left column is the staff review, and you see that it all complies with it. And each of the breakdown, it breaks down different things, but more specifically the third one, which we'll be talking about in the next slide, is the future land use classifications and map, which Alex will go into.
So this is the current zoning district on the right side. I don't even worry about the colors, I'll just tell you. Right here, this is us. It's green, which is special use, which we just said is the current zoning. And then over here, it changes to blue, which is considered educational. And basically, it's just important for the applicant, so Rivera School in this case, to prove to the city that they're trying to get to this zoning, and you know, it's a school, so we're not. And so they'll get into the results of if they think it was or isn't, but yeah, so the educational is the future land use map.
So this is the planned area development criteria. So the first one just talks about creating a creative and imaginative development that is good for public benefit. The second goes more into the preservation of the land and historical significance. And then 3 goes into to provide more of an efficient use and safer networks for streets, promoting greater opportunities for public and private open spaces. And then 4 goes into making it a more harmonious and development, so making sure that it has a nice aesthetic. 5 is just to require an applicant of professional planning and design techniques to achieve the overall coordinated development and to eliminate any negative impacts of unplanned or elements. That's the next. So this right here is just the standards. So they talk about the total site area, the floor area ratio, parking, building height, number of stories, landscape, open space. And this column right here goes into what's currently permitted for the special use district, which it is zoned for. And then here this goes into what the applicant and the request for the approved planned area development, and then the proposed development site, which is, I told you, is the 3 stories. And it goes into, like as I said, the parking, square footage, and the floor to area ratio. So, of course, they had to have the planned area development is designation conditional use, with the site plan review requires that they have a public hearing and review of recommendations by the planning and zoning board. So here you'll see that it's a chart that just shows the different meetings and review committees and boards and the dates that they've happened. So the DRC, the Board of Architects, Planning and Zoning Board already happened, and the City Commission is needed for them to reach their approval.
So these are just some minutes, basically, it's just stating that they were approved, who approved it, maybe what it looks like. Okay, this is basically that you just have to take away. The zoning code requires that a courtesy notification be provided to all property owners within the 1,000 feet. Like our model mentioned, it's all residential. You can see that in the next slide. So basically everyone in that circle had to be aware, and this is just their letter stating that. There hasn't been a pushback from the community, only because it is only going up. So they're just adding more classrooms. Currently, they are satisfying all the requirements, but there are some conditions, and we'll tell you about that next. Okay, the conditions are mainly crosswalk related. Those are the renderings. They are a school. They are concerned about traffic. There's already some traffic concerns in Coral Gables, but basically they are working with the county to go ahead and try to get more crosswalks.
These are just renderings of what the third building, the 3-story building would look like. They do that?
How'd you find out about it? Sorry, I thought
That's not enough.
Came across it.
Alright, did anyone go there?
Oh, I went there. I
You
worked
went
there,
there,
yeah.
that would probably be better.
He actually spoke to
the owner. It's Peter Cohen. Very man, very mean man.
It's Alex's dad. I'm kidding.
Wait, so how'd you find out about it? I went there and my dad owns it?
No.
We should have left with.
It's a different Cohen, completely different Cohen family.
Oh, it's not.
I
was like, that's too much. I was like, that's too much.
I wish.
So what was it about the project that needed the planned area development approval and the conditional use, that it couldn't be done under the existing zoning as of right? What features of the project triggered that? So what features of the project triggered their need to obtain a planned area development approval and a conditional use?
It was mostly just flexibility with building. They needed more space for classrooms, and I also think there were some issues with the streets. They needed to make some right of ways and stuff. Mostly, the word that kept coming up was flexibility. Like they didn't want to be. There were a couple like parking situations, a couple space. They needed more space and expansion.
It was more of a what do you call it? More of it was an issue with the residents more than anything.
It was what?
It was an issue with the residents of the area, because the school is like if you see, it's in the middle of a neighborhood, and mind you, there's in that one property there's 520 kids in total. So those 520 kids at a certain time make a lot of noise, and make a lot of debris, as they said in the report. So that was one of the reasons they were going to rezone it for. Make it easier to mitigate this issue.
And I also think that it's just, since they are building up, Coral Gables is just super strict on everything that they do. So when it comes to building anything, they're going to make it complicated.
Okay, yeah, and I'm looking at your chart here. So they could have done, in theory, you could have as low as 20% landscape open space, but the project actually was providing 42. So it's like, I guess I'm just wondering could they have built this without the PAD? Could they have built this without conditional use? No? So talk to me more about the conditional use. What was the expansion of a school is a conditional use? Is that it?
I think it's also the district. It's in a special use district, and when you were with us, they're just trying to make all that traffic better.
Yeah, it's a very tight neighborhood, so traffic is probably the biggest issue. Everything's a one way.
Yeah. Anybody else? Questions?
Any questions? No? Awesome.
All right, thank you. Okay, take 10 minutes. And then, when you come back, I'll return your midterms and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Andrew. You're awesome. What? Happening back there.
Oh man. Well, they put these things here, you have to come to work.
Right.
2 months. Good.
I know.
Stop being so expressive.
I'm so sorry.
No. It's a public blocker. You have a public blocker on.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is over.
Every time I try to look up. You can't turn this way, I can't turn that one.
Since you already went through it.
Did you see my message last night?
No.
Good. You keep degrading, you keep going downhill.
Yeah, this is Saturday morning.
All these pictures you're seeing, they get worse.
What
did you say that? I said it to you as soon as I laughed.
That's a little weird stuff. I think he said he did 2 hours, but.
What the heck is that?
But you're taking a very long time. But then, like,
They
you're
get
losing
mad at
5
that.
points. Then I was losing 5 points. Even James did it?
Dude was mad. Look at those young kids. These young kids with their cameras.
You already asked me to do
Yeah.
Literally.
Bring it in, bring it in, bring it in.
It's just like.
Did you see me try to smile?
I want that reaction too. I want that reaction too when I get mine.
I didn't know.
I feel like I'm not gonna have
I tried to
that.
step back so you see me smiling at her because I'm like, facial.
See, I didn't get a reaction to it.
I wasn't just saying, oh my gosh.
I skipped one.
She's pissed. You did. You skipped
I was like, I shouldn't say that out loud now, right?
Sorry, Anthony.
In case you missed it. No, I didn't skip a question, yeah. And the videos aren't online.
I figured
I
so.
kept finding the slides and the videos weren't online because I kept trying to go back and 2 of the weeks
I don't know
are-
anything about
Their formulas
about
going
the
on.
dance.
2 of them aren't there and I was like, alright, that's enough.
Oh no, that's bad.
That was like,
Yeah.
honestly, sorry,
It's okay.
we couldn't get there.
See, I'm remembering and then I'm forgetting your names, and I'm remembering and I'm forgetting your names.
That's bad. 8? Yeah, I would have had a lot better.
What'd you get, Oz?
I didn't get it. So, yeah, I think a lot of time we get
Crazy.
Thank you.
I got C.
What'd you get?
High five, Sue. Come on, you girl. Hey, girl.
I could see.
You did too? What'd you get? How much bad? How was right? What was A, right? Didn't I?
She said it's okay.
Oh, it's probably
See,
64.
that's what I said.
Remember? Anthony right here.
Oh, sure.
Which one was that?
Oh, I said C.
It was. That's what I first thought.
Me too.
You guys pay for both of mine here.
I just did.
To me, that's 100. No, I'm saying I didn't hear that last part.
So are you getting buzzed?
But he's like, yeah, no, that's what it means.
Did I not? Do you recall that?
But you never really engaged.
No, I'm just trying to be happy that I was correct. It's still kind of.
You think it's not turning on Friday?
But I'll take my 96.
But then you wouldn't hand out anything on Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday. If you finish and turn it in.
Oh, this one was.
Yeah, I just grabbed
In the end, it's only 5.
That's
You really should know that way application. That's right.
Yes.
Always go to the
You did, but you, there was definite, I did give So you sort of.
I was up at 5 in the morning, I was missing a beat.
What do you mean?
Oh,
The fact that you decide to restrike the
I got it right, that's what I got.
omit 5 parking spaces.
Honestly, that was a lot. Like, that no one was ready for it. I'm gonna need you to bring it down here.
Normally I'm
Like, 4 levels.
I'm the extra one. I'm normally the extra one. You're beating me on
very
that
happy.
apartment building.
Man, I got like over 100.
Hey, I was up till 3 a.m. the night prior, I was procrastinating, so I'm happy I got that.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna get points off because I was going straight.
Is it our apartment?
Yeah.
You want,
I'm gonna exclude
What'd you
this
get?
from apartment.
well, if you don't, you do have to go to the city because if that, how are you gonna change one regular space to one handicap space? You need to find
I was trying to
All week is like, I put it up.
regular spaces will become one handicap space that's van accessible with an access aisle, right? You don't have, you can't swap them out one for one because you need that access aisle. It takes more space to do disabled parking. I've, lots and lots of codes still use the term handicap parking, and I just hate it because you know what the source of the word handicap is?
What is that?
From when they would use their hat to beg.
Really?
Hand to cap.
Hand to cat. Oh, get that out of here.
That's the origins of the word
Now we're trying to
handicap.
say differently able.
Or I'll just use disabled, but I mean, I just, ugh.
Physically challenged.
What?
No, that's not a good
Well, some code, they use both, I mean, all the codes will use, and on almost every single survey, you'll see HC, you know, for the handicap space, when they're labeling the survey.
Because they did a whole study based on.
It's just, since I learned that, it's just kind of offensive, right? To describe disabled people as handicapped.
I never really thought about it, but yeah, handicap is a weird different.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
That's the origin, is that they would take off their hat and beg to survive.
Wow. That gives me a different perspective, seriously.
Wow.
That's an American thing? Is that English? Is it
I don't know, that I don't remember.
That sounds English to me,
If I ever knew.
handicap.
Hmm?
Handicap, it sounds English.
Where's the word cat come from?
Like cat, like cat.
Where's that word come from?
Well, that's probably English.
He's saying word origin.
Yeah.
Like cat
I mean,
comes from English.
for it to be lost.
Any
Or
any of you
maybe
had
Latin.
kids, you probably read the
Tinder.
book Caps for Sale, right? Caps. Hats, it's just another word for hat.
Exactly.
Did you read Caps for Sale?
The original word is.
I read The Giving
Wow.
Tree. I love Shelley too.
2000
I used to read that to my son all the time.
Oh, I love Shel Silverstein.
So yes,
Oh,
British.
yes.
Handicap,
Very.
the word cat.
Do you know he wrote,
Yeah.
do you know he wrote Boy
The
Named Sue? You know the song by Johnny Cash?
Shel Silverstein wrote it?
Yeah, he wrote, that was his
Oh,
band.
really?
Yeah.
That would surprise me tremendously. He was a cartoonist for like Vanity Fair or something.
Oh, I didn't know he was that.
Say again?
Are they good
I
friends?
just thought he wrote great children's books. I used to read my son every night.
Some kind of way him and Johnny Cash got
he
together.
liked
And what are y'all
his
doing
stories,
this
and
week?
he liked me
Cash
to
was
make
seeking
up
songs.
Because
I knew
Yeah,
Silverstein was out there.
I
So
remember
they asked
parts
him to write a
of, you
song.
cannot go to school today, said
Sue.
little
No,
Peggy
it's a
Ann.
pretty-
Barney.
it's a pretty
I have the
long-
measles and the mumps, and then she went
Yeah,
on and on
exactly.
complaining
So I
about
Dr. Seuss
Right after
illness.
school, I'll drive across to
What?
Jacksonville to
What's
have
that
dinner
you
with my
say?
friend that I
You
haven't seen
say
in 3
today is
years.
Saturday?
Then I'm gonna
I'm
go
fine,
spend
I'm
the
going
night
out
in
to play.
Savannah. Spend the night in Savannah.
Isn't that a poem?
From Savannah, I'm going to Atlanta.
Yeah,
I'm gonna spend a couple of
in-
days there.
where the
May or may
sidewalk
not drive up to Chicago, not fully sure yet.
Oh.
4th of July, I'm going to be going to Mississippi because I'm seeing my friend's family there.
I remember reading that
It's on the gay side. And then I'm gonna drive all the way back to Orlando to have dinner in
You know what,
Orlando with my
if I
friend.
could have made a living at it, I would have
Who
continued,
goes to
I worked in
UCF.
bookstores in
And
college.
then I'm gonna be
And then I
back
worked
here
in a children's
for class
bookstore
at night.
when I was in law school, and if I could have made a decent living, I would have just stayed in bookstores, honestly, I just love them.
Really? I wasn't messing with libraries.
I love to travel.
Because you don't use your imagination.
I am a visual person. I want to see.
You
If
create
a movie, I would
At
love to.
30,000 miles right now, it's not bad.
Now
I'm
everything
busy
has to be
reading.
how you
I
want it
can't.
to be.
I can't.
So my husband,
How
was
much is the
here.
maintenance on your
Both
car?
read
Because I got rid of
But
mine,
he would do
because I had a
voices.
2010
I did
I
voices
did
too.
100,000
So he
miles
read-
because the maintenance was
We
expensive.
took turns reading the Chronicles of Narnia, he actually read the Lord
I
of
had
the
to
Rings.
replace my suspension for
And all, you know, the dwarves had voices.
I know.
He did voices, and
My
At
mom's
the end
like,
of the sentence is
"We're
when
running
you
so
figure out
close
which character said that specific sentence. I would not
I
know
mean, you
who
might as well.
categorized
You're not making any payments.
then I guess he could read ahead a little bit.
Or at the end of it,
For
you're
me,
trying to
with
get
the
rid of it.
Chronicles with Narnia, I knew them so well. I knew the dialogue.
and new cars in the
But
world.
kids like that. I asked my son, because I read this article in the
Hey,
Times and they talked about
after a year, up until 1 year after graduation, most new car dealerships will give you the college incentive of $1,000 off with your diploma. So, use that as a cash out.
Never in a million years would I have expected
Just
that.
giving you that little heads up because that's what I plan on doing. I'm trying to, my parents are going to be taking over my car too. Because I had no idea. They planned this shit. I'm going to be eventually like